What's up, Wizards? Dev from Strictly Better back again. I got another budget deck tech for you. I know how much you love these, so do I. A couple people actually have asked for mono green, budget mono green. This is actually a pretty good deck, and this one, as you've asked also, focuses on +1/+1 counters to an extent. 16 of the 30 creatures we play focus on +1/+1 counters. So, let's go ahead, dive right into it, see what we got here, because I think this is a fairly powerful budget deck here. Well, let's kick off the creatures. We gotta play 3 copies, at least, of Elvish Mystic in this deck. I don't mind playing 4, but it's obviously not a great top deck. And it does help us out early game with our speed. It's the only ramp that we have, but we do get enough mana late game because we're gonna try and go relatively long in this deck that we don't want to be top decking at late game, but I do just want to play the 3 copies, but we do need it. In the 1-drop slot, we're also playing 4 copies of Servant of the Scale. Yeah, this card is better than you think. I discussed this in, I think, the Green-White Bolster budget deck tech, which is really popular deck tech. Thank you for that. But in any case, I discussed how good this card was there. Pretty much everything I said there applies here as well. Being able to keep its power on the board is actually a fairly powerful thing. And we're doing a lot with, Ferocious and Formidable in this deck, aside from just the +1/+1 counters. So being able to keep his power on the board is actually pretty important, and it enables some of the tricks that we're doing with counters too. So definitely want to play 4 copies of Servant. He's actually a really good 1-drop, especially on the play. Into the 2-drops, we got 4 copies of Avatar of the Resolute. If you can just get 1 counter on this guy, then he blocks Ojutai and trades. He blocks Stormbreath pre-Monstrous and trades. He's the only real defense we have against flyers in this deck, which is kind of a downer. But this card is more than good, especially if you go turn 1 Servant, turn 2 Avatar. You got a 4/3, which on the play especially is better than anything they're going to play turn 2. So very good sequence there of turns. Also, late game, as a top deck, this guy is fantastic. He can come down and be, a 7/6, a 6/5, something like that, and be a game-changing creature for you that has trample and reach. So I highly support, especially in this format right now with all the dragons and such, I support playing Avatar. I think this is a great card, and I've talked about him enough already, but especially in this deck, he does a lot of things for us. We're also playing 3 Aire of the Wilds to finish off the 2-drops here. Aire of the Wilds, yeah, obviously we can get that Ferocious turned on fairly easily with a lot of our creatures naturally, and a lot of our creatures with +1/+1 counters on them. Through manipulation of counters, we can easily get that Ferocious. And he's a really good early game creature against aggro variants and stuff like that. We can clog up the board, or we can just smash through against things that are a little less aggressive. So I've always liked Aire of the Wilds. I think this is a more than fine card. And in mono green, he sort of serves a dual or even triple purpose for us. So I'm definitely going to play this guy. We're playing 4 copies of Salt Road Quartermaster, sort of the captain of this deck. There's ways you can move +1/+1 counters onto this guy, and then distribute them in combat situations or as needed to save your guys from, say, targeted removal, lightning strike, rose, things like that. So Quartermasters, especially when you have the mana for it, this is a very good card actually. It saves your dudes a lot of the times. It helps you, not just trade up but survive combat encounters. Really like this dude actually. In testing, it's worked out fairly well, especially in mid-game stalls, which we create a lot of and have a lot of ways to get out of. Reverend Hunter drives the deck in a lot of ways for us. He's especially good late in the game or even on curve, but late game, we're not doing a whole lot. We're not devoted to devotion, which is weird to say, but in any case, we can still generate, 6, 7 devotion in the mid game, which we create, again, a lot of mid-game stalls. We can drop a huge Reverend Hunter late game fairly easily. Honestly, I really like this guy, and I would support playing 4 copies. I just couldn't find the space. We're playing 2 copies of Boon Satyr. That finishes off the 3-drops. Yeah, we need tricks like this. This is obviously a very efficiently costed creature and a combat trick in a lot of situations. Or we can just play it at the end of our opponent's turn or as a flash blocker. So much versatility in Boon Satyr. And he's at such a good price right now that I wouldn't fault you if you wanted to put 3 of this guy in the deck. But I do want to play at least the 2, for all the reasons I previously stated. I think this guy is very good, especially in something like this where we have limited options at instant speed. 2 copies of Surik, the Hunt Caller. Surik is only, $1 right now, something like that. He's just not as expensive as I thought he would be. And he's an incredible creature, 5 power, 4 mana. Got a really good Formidable ability, and we can get Formidable so easy. Obviously he's 5 towards his own, so we only need 3 power outside of that. And with him you can drop a huge Avatar of the Resolute or a Reverend Hunter late game and just swing in with it you know, out of nowhere, you can drop a huge dude, either one of those guys, and just swing in. And we've got a couple of other big creatures that have bomby effects when they come into play. So I think that Surik enables a lot of things and is very efficiently costed on its own. I really, really like this card in this deck. He's a game changer, mid-game, man. So I definitely would play this. We're playing one Nylea, God of the Hunt, Goddess of the Hunt. It ought to be. That always bugs me. But anyway, Nylea is another way to break board stalls. We generate more than enough devotion to turn her on, and she's an efficiently costed creature that's indestructible, all things considered. So she is the most expensive thing in the deck right now, but I do want to play at least the one copy. Now, I could see cutting her and doing some other things, maybe adding another Reverend Hunter, another spell down here that we're about to get to. There are things you can do instead of Nylea, but again, breaks up late game board stalls, efficiently costed creature. I really like this thing, and survives mass removal. One, Nylea's Disciple in this main deck here. We got more on the board, of course, but this against, you know, aggro and it's any deck that wants to attack for the win, honestly. This card is quite good. I think we know that, though, since it's been a couple of years we've been playing it. It's good. You should play it. You should. You really should. It's good. Life. Late game, life, and a 3/3 body? Yes. Let's go ahead and finish off the creatures finally. This is 2 copies of Stampeding Elk Herd, sort of a surprise inclusion. But I actually think this is fairly efficiently costed. 5 mana, 5 power with an ability that helps your entire team out is pretty good. And this is another thing that you can drop with, you know, Surik's formidable ability. You drop it that turn, you swing with Surik, and you swing with this, and the rest of your team, everyone gets trample, and you're swinging with a 5/5 that they didn't know you had when the turn started. So, definitely like Stampeding Elk Herd. I think it's a really good budget option. Again, helps out our entire team and has good interaction with some of our other cards. So I'm playing at least the 2 copies of Stampeding Elk Herd and love that body, man. Just a 5/5 for 5 is not bad, honestly. This survives combat, beats Siege Rhino. That's a thing to think about. So those are probably all my arguments for Stampeding Elk Herd. Let's finally move on to the spells here. We're playing 7 of them, 3 of them being Epic Confrontation. This is one of our only real removal options. I could also see, what is it, Hunt the Weak, aside from this, but I like Epic Confrontation because it's less of a mana investment. We can do it early game, which is when we're going to want to do it a lot of the times, to remove early creatures. And, you know, sometimes in the mid game too. But in any case, I think Epic Confrontation is better removal, especially for a budget deck, than we've been giving it credit for so far. And I know that there are people that support that opinion too. We're playing 1 copy of Citizen Tactics. We see this in sideboards sometimes, but this is a mono green deck, and I just want to be able to remove stuff, and we can double up on creatures, you know. Citizen Tactics is really, really good, especially since we just have so many high-powered dudes that we can clear out all of their lower dudes, some of their, you know, some of their bigger guys even, and just really sort of pave the way for a big attack, either that turn or even the next turn. So I like Citizen Tactics, and a lot of other people do also. You don't see it in too many main decks, but I want to main deck it here so that we have another removal option. We don't have many. 1 copy of Bow of Nylea. Bow of Nylea puts +1/+1 counters on our creatures, which is good. It can put +1/+1 counters on Quartermasters, which we can then move to other creatures in combat situations or to save them for removal. That's important. Aside from that, it does other things. You know, we can gain life off the bow. We can deal damage to flyers off the bow. Like, there are definitely cool things that we can do with this. I want to play at least the 1 copy. I don't know that I'd go over on that, but it does have a lot of synergy with what we're trying to do here. And even if you don't want to put counters on your guys, you can gain life and do other stuff. There's plenty of things you can do with the bow. I've always liked this card. And let's finally finish off the spells here in the main deck. 2 copies of Inspiring Call. Yeah, some people might want more copies of this, or fewer copies. You know, this is a polarizing inclusion. But I do at least want the 2 copies here in the main. Similar to Ranger's Guile, which I almost included in the main and ended up in the board. But this can draw us a lot of cards and is a blowout in response to mass removal. You know, if they Crux of Fate targeting non-dragons and you've got 3 or 4 guys out, you know, you draw a few cards, you save all your dudes, their you know, mass removal fizzles. And yeah, I think Inspiring Call in response to even, you know, just single targeted 1 of removal is good in a lot of ways. If you've got, you know, 2-3 guys out with counters on them, you'll draw a fistful of cards and you'll save your guy from removal. So I think there's a lot of reasons to include Inspiring Call, but I don't want to see it all the time. All I really need to say about the lands is that we're playing 23 forests. That's it. If you got a couple of bucks, throw some Nykthos in there and go crazy, but we really just need to play 23 forests and we'll be fine. Let me toss the board up right over here somewhere. Yeah. This is the board. This is fairly standard, I want to say. We've got stuff to protect our creatures, Rangers, Gal. We've got stuff to kill flyers, plummet. Display of dominance is good against all kinds of stuff in the format right now. And you can see there that this is, I think, all we can do for a budget. Maybe Arbor Colossus should be in there somewhere, but this is, I feel pretty comfortable with this. And finally, let me go ahead and throw up the world-famous power rankings. As you can see, some of these numbers are a little higher than they are for a lot of budget decks. I feel like we've got a good amount of power in this thing, and more synergy than it looks like between formidable, the counters interactions, ferocious. There's a lot of things that we're doing in this deck. Devotion, and they all come together fairly well, and it's fairly consistent in its mission too. So I think that obviously some of these numbers are a little lower than they should be, but the deck is not below average at almost anything. It is a little vulnerable, quite so, to removal, which is a bit of an issue, but it's largely a give and take. There's a lot of pros, there are a lot of cons, as you can see here. So I would recommend this, especially for F&M, as we see that it does fairly well against a lot of aggro variants, and those are very popular at F&Ms. So if you want something that can stall the game against aggro, slow them down, and then win a little bit later in the game, this is probably the deck for you. It only costs about $18 off of TCG Player right now. Cut the Nyleas, it'll cost you about 14 or 15 bucks. So not a bad deal to play with a lot of fairly powerful cards and do cool tricks with Surik and Reverend Hunter and Avatar of the Resolute. These are some of my favorite cards in the format. A lot of them feel really balmy. So again, I highly recommend this deck, at least for F&M formats or against your friends. I want to know how you guys feel about it. You've given me good feedback on some of the decks I've made before, and I think that this is a good deck here. So let me know how you feel about it. And the last thing I want to say here before I do the outro is that no, Hardened Scales isn't in the deck, and I apologize for that. I got crap for that during the bolster video too. It's just, it feels like we sacrifice, and I'm going to make this quick, we sacrifice early game speed, which those first few turns are very important for a deck like this. In turn, we get to win more, honestly. I feel like Hardened Scales is always a win more. It feels like slightly casual to me, and I hope I'm not offending anybody there, but it just never does what I want it to do in testing. It costs us our first turn when we could be better served playing Servant of the Scale or Elvish Mystic to ramp ourselves. There's just, I don't see too many reasons to play this because it always feels like win more to me and a wasted slot. So I didn't play Hardened Scales, and I'm apologizing in advance. So you'll probably still give it to me in the comments, and I hope you do. As always, like, share, comment, subscribe, do all of those things. Helps us out a lot when you do any of that. We're trying to grow as a channel and put out good content for you guys. We appreciate all the subscribers lately. We've had a blow up, and we appreciate that. We were trying to get to 1,000 subscribers in a year. We're at nearly 600 subscribers in about 4 months. So thank you for all of your support lately. It's been really awesome. Anybody that's new to the channel, welcome. We're going to do a lot of stuff here. We've got Magic Origin spoilers coming up, more budget and standard deck techs, some modern deck techs are coming up. We've got the most underappreciated cards in Standard, and we just did the top 20 cards in Standard and the state of Standard last month. We're getting ready to do another one soon. So, like I said, lots of content coming up and lots of cool content from just a few weeks ago and like just right at a week ago. So stick with us. Appreciate you subscribing. That means a lot to us. I'm Devin from Strictly Better. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, Wizards.